It's me, and let's have another AI chat. So, I was sitting here thinking about how I might have developed an interest in growing food, and a really neat childhood memory came to mind. I grew up in Southern California, Los Angeles County. Growing up, my father had sisters and brothers in San Diego, Oceanside, and Chula Vista, California. Often we would take weekend trips to visit them. It was about a 2-hour drive down the 405, as we called it. We would pass through Orange County, which was mostly all orange groves at that time. We even drove by Lion Country Safari in Irvine. What you know about that, Willis? Sort of an old school Jurassic Park. Since my dad was the youngest brother, his family made sure that he had a good time. Their family had grown up in the South, and they still maintained some of their homesteading ways. My uncle in Chula Vista lived in a very rural town that was near the Mexican border. I remember the dirt roads, and also that his wife was very, very talented. She had her own piano and organ, and she spent a lot of time playing nice gospel music. They also had chickens running around, and I also spent a lot of time watching and chasing those chickens when we would go and visit. We also would stop into National City, San Diego, usually on our way home. And I had an aunt there, and she grew these large collard trees. At the time, I didn't know what they were, but they were right near her front porch. And it fascinated me that she would pick the leaves for dinner, and sometimes she would let me help. Then she would come into the house and prepare one of my father's favorite meals, which was usually a steak or a roast with red gravy. Have you ever heard of red gravy? Well, that was one of my father's favorites, and my mother would also often make red gravy for him. And sometimes my aunt would also prepare, I guess it's succotash with tomatoes, okra, and corn. And everything was always so fresh. And then you could always count on there being homemade pepper sauce on the table. So for me, I didn't really care for all that stuff. It was just, I'll take rice and a piece of chocolate cake, please. Then on the way back home, also, we would stop in Oceanside. And I had an aunt there that would make sure that I received a roll of quarters. And baby, I felt so rich after we made that stop. I really anticipated that stop. Then there was my Uncle John and his wife Lily. And that's where it really, I think, hit home about homesteading and having gardens and animals that you got food from. They lived in the middle of a city block. And even still, they had a very large garden in their backyard. They had chickens, and there was always fresh eggs everywhere. And at the time, again, for me, it was always, no thank you. I didn't want to have anything to do with those brown eggs that had that real rich golden yolk on the inside. But my father loved them. I would play with the chickens, though, until my dad and my uncle would come out in the backyard to get one of them for dinner. When dinner time came around, for me, it was, I'll just take a biscuit and jelly, please. I definitely was not going to eat that chicken. Also, one time my Uncle John took me to a sweet potato field. It was acres and acres of sweet potatoes. If I recall, the workers had turned the soil over so that you could see the sweet potatoes laying on top of the dirt. And so my uncle gave me a box, and I ran all over that field picking the largest potatoes I could find until my box was too heavy for me to carry. And so just sharing with you, those are some of my fondest memories of growing up and things that I did repetitively in visiting my family in Southern California. So I think those were my first exposures to gardening. Do y'all have childhood stories? Let's talk about it in the comments. And you know what to do. Subscribe, comment, like, and also share. Talk to you soon. This is Bliss.